Good morning, everyone. So today we're gonna talk about accessible tourism. So does anybody have an idea what accessible tourism is? So for today, the learning objectives are define who are considered persons with disability or kanang kinsa tong mga PWD. Then enumerate different forms of disability, explain the concept of accessibility, define accessible tourism, discuss the principles of accessible tourism, explain universal design, discuss the principles of universal design, provide concrete examples of universal design applications that create accessibility in tourism for PWD or persons with disability, and lastly, cite concrete measures to maximize the sensory experience of PWD. So, na mo idea unsa ni siya. Okay, let's proceed. So, according to Johns Hopkins University, the following are the types of disabilities. So, muna siya ang types of disability or types sa mga tao nga kinahanglan og accessible tourism. Actually, kinahanglan jud tanan pero mas gina-prior ani nila nga mga tao. So, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or ADHD. So, kani siya muna siya ang mga tao nga maglisod og focus, dali ma-distract. So, muna siya, apil ni siya, blindness or low vision kung kisa tayo hanap og mata or kanang kuan, dili nakakita, brain injuries, deaf or hard hearing, na yung mga problema sa pagdungog, learning disabilities in general, medical disabilities, physical disabilities, psychiatric disabilities, or katong na yung mga mental health illness, speech and language disabilities. So, kung siya, sakop rin sa tanan sa persons with disability or in short, kanang mga tao nga na PWD card na man sila morag identification or ID. So, universal design. The World Tourism Organization defines universal design as the design of products, environments, programs, services to be usable by all people. So, kaning universal design, muna siya ang design sa mga establishments or mga tourist spots nga para like accessible sa tanan gyud. For example, naka sa mall, kabantay mo anang nay parking para sa mga tao nga PWD. Mura bitaw siya ingon ana or ingon ana jud siya. Unya kanang mga lakwanan para nay mo kuan sa wheelchair, di ba, kanang instead of stairs maglaan og daan para sa mga tao nga PWD or naka wheelchair. So kanay accessible tourism para gyud ni nila. So, accessible tourism, the right to travel is one universal right or one of universal human rights. So, dili ra ang mga normal nga tao ang naay right mo travel. Kita tanan og asa tong mga PWD bisag naka-wheelchair pa ka dira, bisan pag nakay mga lahi-lahi nga disability. So, ang travel that is designed around the requirements of PWDs is called accessible tourism. So, mo ni siya, accessible tourism, at iman ilang ninyo, applied yun siya sa persons with disabilities.
In order to have a successful accessible tourism, there must be principles to be followed. So that's what I'm going to discuss to you now. Principles of tourism. To make a tourism accessible, the UNTO has put forward the following principles. First is tourism destination management. Destination must have an accessible tourism strategy. It must have the necessary accessible facilities, infrastructures, and transport in order to create an environment that is varied, stimulating, and easily accessible. This means that every establishment is required to have necessary facilities and everyone has the right to access it, such as comfort rooms, parking lots, elevators, ramp handrails, lifts, and many more. And also accessible transportation, which includes cars, vans, airplanes, and ferries that is open to all. So now let's move on to the second one, and it is the tourism information and advertising, preparation, information, and booking. Tourism promotional material should clearly indicate accessible services and facilities. Information of PWDs should be included in the general tourist information. Promotional material should state how to contact the establishment through text, telephone, fax, or email and or alternative formats. So this means that in every establishment in a destination is obligated to provide their contact information, especially when a customer needs assistance and guidance. Next one is destinations must provide a list of all support services for tourists with disabilities, such as facilities for the repair and replacement of prostheses. So prosthesis means an artificial body part such as leg or any man-made substitute for a missing body part. And also the distributors of the specialized medical care, especially whenever there is an emergency. So as we all know that we are tackling about PWDs here. So there are things that is inevitable, meaning we're not expecting to happen, and then if there's an emergency, so an establishment should prepare or should always be ready to provide medical services, especially whenever there's an emergency. So yeah, is urban and architectural environments. Parking areas, special parking spaces with proper identification for vehicles of PWDs as near as possible to the entrances and exits. Parking spaces should be wide enough for PWDs to maneuver comfortably between cars and wheelchairs and shall be located so that they need not to go cars. This is very understandable for us, right? So to explain it briefly, establishments should be considerate in locating the parking spaces intended for persons with disabilities, and as much as possible it should be placed near the entrance and exit so they wouldn't have a hard time in finding their cars. Next is communication. Signed language, braille, and augmentative and alternative means of communication chosen by PWDs should be accepted and facilitated. So again, establishments should always be considerate to everyone. Since it is an accessible tourism, it is open to everyone regardless of the differences. Thus, sign languages and any alternative means of communication must be provided in order for it to be easily understood, most especially during emergencies. Next is signage. Announcements should be both visual and audible. Accessible services and facilities should be clearly marked with easily understandable symbols, and also fire alarms should emit both visual and acoustic signals. The making of emergency exits must be clear and well-lit. Facilities must have an evacuation maps. This also goes the same way in communication. In order to evoke a message effectively to people with disabilities, establishments should provide both visual and audible signages. Next, we'll be talking about modes of transport and station. PWDs should have easy access to all transport services to and from all terminals, stations, and other related facilities, such as availability of boarding chairs to board an aircraft. Pedestrian crossing should provide with traffic lights with audible and visual signs. Also, on main thoroughfares and tall highways, rest stops should be provided at regular intervals and with accessible facilities. Furthermore, access to transportation should be as simple as possible and assistance should be available when required. Then the next one is letter E, accommodation, food services, and conventions. Accessible rooms should allow PWDs to move around, locate facilities and services, and communicate comfortably and independently. Examples of these accessible areas are food service establishments. These facilities should properly marked for easy location. Next, conference facilities. Conference facilities should be equipped with special seats, areas reserved for wheelchair users, and special headphones, audio induction loop facilities for the hearing impaired. The best example that follows this principle are the hotels in Scotland. In Scotland, they aim to provide plenty of wheelchair accessible and disability-friendly accommodation options. The next one is cultural activities, museums, theaters, cinemas, and others. Materials and cultural activities in accessible formats should be provided, and PWDs must be able to participate, develop, and utilize their creative, artistic, and intellectual potentials, regardless of the differences of each tourist, whether they are with disabilities or not. Activities provided for this establishment must be open to everyone, most especially for PWDs. They should be able to actively participate to any activities that could enhance their potential. Next one is customer service personnel shall have the necessary training to welcome, serve, and communicate with PWDs. Trained professionals and staffs working with PWDs is more likely to provide better assistance and services. Last one is letter G, other tourism activities and events. Excursionists to surrounding areas. Tour buses should be outfitted to accommodate PWDs to provide both auditory and visual information and other types of aids. Sports. Sports facilities should be equipped to accommodate PWDs. Green spaces and natural environments. Long routes should be equipped with adapted fountains and benches with suitable access to allow the approach of wheelchair users and those who use walking aids. This means that in any form of establishments, ensuring to provide safety, comfortability, enjoyment, and satisfaction to PWDs is a must.
Accessibility. For Batas Pambansa 344 Accessibility Law. First is the outside and around surrounding. So kani siya mo niya itong mga makita sa atong palibot. First, drop curves. Changes in level walkways should be by a drop curve. So kay ba kabantay mo anang sa kilid sa karsada kanang gutter, di ba naman jud ni murag na slide or kanang lagi murag slide. Muna siya maka-access ana niya kay ang mga kanang wheelchair or mga PWD. Second is curb cutouts. Curb cutouts should only be allowed when it will not obstruct a walkway or in any way lessen the width of a walkway. So, ang curb cutouts, kamantay mo ng curve ng agianan. Nya, ang curve ana, mao na dira ang katong murag slide pareha sa drop curve. Nya, ang maka-access sa daanan kanang mga PWD rapod o mga nag-wheelchair. So, mao na siya ang curb cutouts. So, third, walkways and passageways. Walkways should be kept as level as possible and provided with slip-resistant material, while passageways for the disabled should not be obstructed by street furniture, bollards, signposts, or columns along to define route as they can be hazardous. So, ang passageways and walkways, kasabot naman dito kung unsa gamit ani nila o unsa ni sila. And fourth, handrails. Handrails should be installed at both sides of ramps and stairs and at the outer edges of drop curbs. So, ang handrails mao na ang katungkop tanan. So, dapat naka-install din siya sa both sides sa ramps or sa stairs para atungkop tanan rapod niya. For our safety rapod, especially sa mga PWD. Fifth is open spaces. To aid the blinds, walkways, or paths should have defined edges either by the use of planters with dwarf walls or a grass verge or similar which provide a texture different from that path. Sixth is signages. Signs should be kept simple and easy to understand. Signage should be made a contrasting color and contrasting gray matter to make a detection and reading easy. So, kasabot ratang kung unsa ka importante sad ang signage, and it should be dali ra masabtan o dali ra makita. So, seventh is crossings. All crossings should be located close if not contiguous with the normal pedestrian desire lines. Parking areas. Parking spaces for the disabled should allow enough space for a person to transfer a wheelchair from a vehicle. So, dapat daw na siya enough space para sa person nga mag-transfer from vehicle to wheelchair or wheelchair to vehicle. Sunod is accessible parking spaces should be located as close as possible to building entrances or to accessible entrances. So, ang parking spaces sa daw kanang dapat kuno dool siya sa kuan sa entrance para mas dali labi na sa mga PWD. And the third one is parking spaces for the disabled should never be located at ramp or slapping areas. So, ang parking spaces sa daw dapat dili ko na siya natumong sa mga lugar na kanaganing bati kay kagianan kani nga kay kuan man mas magkalisod man ang mga PWD ana nga lugar, ana nga area. So dapat ato jud ka sa plain. Dapat ang parking areas kay mga plain. Next is inside buildings and structures. So kani siya mo na nga itong mga makita sulod sa isa ka building. So first is the entrances. Entrances should be accessible from arrival and departure points to the interior lobby. So masabtan na jud noon sa ang entrance. Kanang dapat daw duol daw siya sa arrival o departure sa interior lobby. Second is ramps. Changes in level requires ramp except when served by a drop curb, an elevator, and other mechanical device. Third is doors. All doors shall have a minimum clear width of 0.8 meters. Fourth is thresholds. Thresholds shall be kept to a minimum whenever necessary. Threshold and sliding door tracks shall have a maximum height of 25 mm and preferably ramped. Fifth is switches. Manual switches should be located no further than 0.2 meter from the latch side of the door. Sixth is signages, same specification with the outside and inside buildings. Seventh is corridors. As in walkways, corridors should be maintained level and provided with a slip-resistant surface. 8. Washrooms and toilets. Accessible washrooms and toilets shall permit easy passage of a wheelchair and allow the occupant to enter a stall, close the door, and transfer to the water closet from either a frontal or lateral position. 9 is stairs. Grid surfaces should be slip-resistant material. Nosing would be provided with slip-resistant strips to further minimize slipping. And the last one is elevators. Accessible elevators should be located not more than 30 meters from the entrance and should be easy to locate with aid of sign. And the last one is safety. Under the safety is first, fencing for roadworks and footworks. The fence should be strong enough to offer resistance should a blind person walk into it. There should be no gaps between adjoining fence or lengths. So, kabantay mo na mga buta. Yan naman na sila dala-dala, no? Kanang importante na sila, iganaan kay mutingog gani, mutingog siya. So, makaibaw sila nga, dili na sila pwede mo agi diri kay mabangga na sila, di sila pwede diri kay bawal ni agian. So, mo na ang kuan sa first. Second is covers for excavations. Excavation in the footway or carriageway where pedestrian may walk are covered over temporarily with proper construct and supported roads to provide a temporary path for pedestrians. So, kabantay mo anang kuan, kanang nag-ayo sa dan, nya dili pa siya pwede paagian na sila gibutang ana nga kanang cover mo na siya ang gitawag nga cover excavations. So, third is signage for roadworks and the carriageways. Temporary signs used to warn of roadworks should be carefully located and should not use any inconveniences to pedestrian, particularly to disabled. Fourth is location of the emergency exit. Flashing light directional signs indicating the location of the fire exit shall be provided at every change in direction with sufficient power provided in accordance with the provisions of emergency lighting under Section 3.410 of PD 1185, the Fire Code of the Philippines. And the last one is audible and visible alarm system. Audio-visual alarm system shall be provided in all fire sections as defined under PD 1185 Section 3.503, the Fire Code of the Philippines.
Morning, everyone. So I will be discussing about the universal design in built environments. So universal design is the design and composition of an environment so that it can be accessed, understood, and used to the greatest extent possible by all people, regardless of their age, size, ability, or disability. An environment or any building, product, or service in that environment should be designed to meet the needs of all people who wish to use it. So universal design and built environment, kani siya is gidesign ni siya for persons with disability. Para for them to kanang dali ra bitaw nila ma-access ang kaning mga areas sa kana nga mga buildings. So under the universal design and built environment, we have parking space. So kaning parking space guys, as you can see sa picture, kanang familiar man gid no, especially kanang matutawag malls or kanang hotels sa parking area or sa parking space, naagi ni siya inani nga kaning sign. And kana nga sign is for PWD nga mga customer. So kana siya guys is prioritize na siya for PWD kay para mas dali sila maka-access og dali ra pud sila maka-access sa kanang entrance sa mall. Kay na may uban good nga kanang for example kanang mga uban nga mag-wheelchairs, di ba? Lisod biya jud kay na para nila nga munaog sila niya. Taas pa kayo sila lakawunon sa kana nga parking space. So kana siya is gituyo gid na siya og design for PWD para dali ra sila maka sulod sa malls or sa kanang nga building, and para po dili na sila maka-cause og traffic. So sa main entrance guys, kaning main entrance is very common jud ni siya, especially bisag kita kanang mga customers is kanang bitaw mga manual nga ato iduot-duot, manual nga door sa mall baron or bisag asa sa convenience store mga nana, di ba og manual di ba kay kanang maglisod tag duot ana niya. So kani siya gidesign ni siya for PWD persons kay namang uban is especially sa kanang mga mag-wheelchair pud, sa kanang uban nga kanang mga blind person na uban nga kanang bitang wala na yung mga kuan guys, wala na sila kanang kamot ina na ba. So kani sila is gidesign ni siyang main entrance nga kanang bitang for anang gi-design siya for kaning door niya nga automatic or semi-automatic kay para dali ra pud ang pag-access nila. Dili na sila magduot-duot pa sa door nga grabe ka napay push and pull nga grabe kayo kagahi nga hasta kita maglisod ta og kanang push niya or pull, di ba? So kani siya is gidesign ni siya para mas mapadali ang access sa mga PWD persons. So kaning lighting guys is gidesign pud ni siya for people nga kanabitong mga daot og mata, especially sa kanang mga astigmatism. Yeah. Kani siya is gidesign siya nga kanabitong dili ingon nga kanang ang light nila is dili ingon nga sobraan sa kahayag ug sobraan ra pud sa kangitngit. So ang light is kanang kuno siya sakto ra siya. Sakto ra siya nga dili siya sakit sa mata and dili pud siya kanang grabe ka kuan ba kanang murag wala na lang sad kay hapit makita kay sobra ka dim ang iyang light. So kani sad siya is gi-design ni siya for kana lagi katong mga people nga naay kuan sila sensitive ilang mata sa lights. So kani siya guys, ang floors is dili siya slippery kay kanang sa atong ma-observe man good if kanang matutag hotels or matutag kanang malls, ang kani biyang floor sa malls is kanang mga tiles biya na siya and super siya ka kanang sinaw, di ba? Pwede na ka ma-reflect ng imuhang kaugalingon sa ilang floor. So they implemented or they designed floors for persons nga mag wheelchairs na uban nga kanabitong mga kuan ba kanang mga 40 tiguang pud guys, kanang mga tiguang nga mga person, yeah, kana sila kay very sensitive na pud kay na sila nga maglakaw. So kana siya is design na siya for them para dili kanang iwas sa mga tiles biya na siya and super siya ka kanang sinaw, di ba? Pwede na ka ma-reflect ng imuhang kaugalingon sa ilang floor. So they implemented or they designed floors for persons nga mag wheelchairs na uban nga kanabitong mga kuan ba kanang mga 40 tiguang pud guys, kanang mga tiguang nga mga person, yeah. Kana sila kay very sensitive na pod kay na sila nga maglakaw. So kana siya is design na siya for them para dili kanang iwas sa slide, yeah, slippery. And also dapat ang floor pod is level, walay mga batak-batak kay para iwas pod siya sa kanang mga lamba. So kani siya guys, if we are kanagan bitong nasa restaurants inana. So naabe jud na yung mga guest nga kanang mga blind people, napoy uban is dili makastorya, napoy uban is bungol. So kani siya guys, napoy uban is kanang bitong ilahang mata is kanang kuan ba, dili tin-aw, maglisod sila og basa sa mga cards, so, sa menu cards. So kani siyang restaurants is they implemented nga kanang dapat ang kuan ang sa menu is dagko ang lettering para sa katong sensitive og eyes or katong mga dili ka klaro is mas dali na lang nila mabasa ang mga letters sa menu. And also ang mga staff gusto nila ang mga staff is kanang makahibaw sila sign language for deaf people, and also sa kaning kuan pod kaning mga blind people nga blind people is kanang bitong napoda sila buhaton ana guys nga kanang for kanang blind people nga makahibaw sila nga muni siya ang gipasabot inana basta kanang nana siya word, para nakalimot ko siyang word, nana siya word ana nga kanang nanahikap-hikapon nga mga letters, yeah, kanang for example kani siya menu cards, menu cards. Nya nani siya ang kani siya mga letters niya is more naka-bold siya, bitaw naka-bold nga if imo siyang hikapon is kanang makahibaw ka nga letter A ni siya, kani siya B. So kana siya is for blind people. Ila pud nang kanang gi-implement pud na nila na. So sa reception guys, kung kinsa may kung kamo nakaadto na mog hotels, mga nana. So ang kaning reception is kanang kuan gini sila, kanang desk kay kuan tag-as ba kay na siya. And then kana sila magbarog ra sad na sila guys. So kani siya is gi-design ang kaning reception sa Universal Design is gi-design ni siya nga kanang naay magbarog is naapoy maglingkod for guest nga kanang mag-wheelchair, especially sa mga mag-wheelchair. Kay lain pud kayo taas kay ang kuan niya na guest nga nag-wheelchair din maghangad dili siya kakuan sa level sa kuan. So ilahan nang gi-implement and gi-prioritize na nila for kana nga reason. So ang kaning stairs is they kanang kuan pod ila pod ning gi-design slippery, especially sa kanang bitong mga kanang dili na makaklaro nga mga guest or kanang people or kanang blind people. Kani siya nga stairs, kanang stairs is gi-design na sila for them para kanang agituyo sa nila nga naa handrail both sides sa stairs kay para makakupot ang kana sila nga guest. And also dapat jud ang kaning sa stairs is dili siya slippery kay para kanang sila nga mga people rather is iwas sa slide. Especially stairs, delikado kaya na siya for them. So, they created or they designed that kind of design. They designed it, the kind of, oh my gosh. Basta they designed nga kana siya para sa safety of their guests. So, kani siyang washroom and toilets, guys. Gidesign ni nila for people nga kana bitong mga visually impaired. So, nagkuan sila og mga signage for men and women. Nagbutang sila og mga ilhanan nga para ma-identify sa visually impaired. Ma-identify nila is if ang kani siya pang babae ba ni siya or pang lalaki. So, sa kaning emergency exit, flashing beacons, vibrating pillows or pages mo ni siya for kuan ni siya guys for sa kanang bitong mga hearing impaired. Sakto ba? Kanang mga kuan bitaw guys dili makadungog nga mga guests or people, for example na emergency, and then kanang dili sila makadungog sa kanang bitong emergency nga tingog. So they created anang mga flashing beacons sa mga rooms and also vibrating pillows para makahibaw sila nga kanang makahibaw sila nga if mo vibrate ang pillows is na ay emergency. And emergency evacuation route for disabled guests should be step-free. So kani siya emergency exit. So for di pa nga person nga mga mga disabled person is they created or they designed emergency exit for them para mas dali ra pud sila maka-access and dili sila maglisod kay sa ato abya yung regular nga emergency exit kay kanang hagdan, di ba? Hagdan. So naay ilaha is na sila gi-design ana for persons with a disability nga mas dali sila o dili na sila maglisod. So, ang kaning seamless transportation, guys, it is very common in Japan, Korea, and Singapore. Wherein kanang ilahang smartphones is naa sila app nga gamiton for them to access kanang bitaw maka-access din sila dali is kanang if mo sakay sila sa bus nga dili na sila magkuha pa sa ilahang money. Ano bitong dali na lang kaay nila ba tap na lang sila silang smartphone dito sa kay naman na sa bus nila is na sila kanang kuan dito na sila kanang indicator dito nga nimo i-tap na lang na nimo imong smartphone but kana siya is dapat mo na siyang loadan kay para katuya imong giload ato is mo na to siya imong pangbayad. So mo na siya ang purpose sa seamless transportation.
So, maximizing the sensory experience. Mao ni siya ang part nga katong mga PWD dili man kito sila same nato no og kanang kuan og pananaw, sense of touch baron or smell or taste kay lahi-lahi baya ang disability. So kani siya magbuhatag paagi nga ma-enjoy gihapon nila ang tourist spot or place nga inyong gilaagan or if namoy mabuhat nga tourist spot in the future kay wala man sa takabalo. So sa visual sa mga tao nga wala kayo'y kanang dili kayo kaklaro or colorblind baron, so they use design, principle of scale, rhythm, proportion, balance, and composition to enhance the complementary integration of facilities into environmental context. So for example, ang colors atong i-align, for example, ang mga tao kay colorblind, so unya all about visual ang place, so unsaon man na nila, so dapat hunahon sa danato. So kani sa sounds, locate service and maintenance functions away from public areas, space, lodging units, and interpretive stops so that natural, not human sounds dominate. Kuani siya kanang damon goy mga tao nga for example, if mag-hearing aid ta, dili man ko kuan ninyo kay dili man kita tanan mag-hearing aid, pero nakoy friend nga naka-hearing aid siya and if magtaod siya og hearing aid, if dili gani natural nga gikan sa nature ang sound kay dali ra kay siya ma-irritate or sakit kaayo sa dunggan ang sound. So dapat hunaon sa ginanato unsaon man ni nato, so mas jud siya if naa siya sa nature or dili gid siya ingon nga grabe kasaba. So magkuan ta og mga noise cancelling nga pang maintenance or mga gamit. So kaning sense of touch dapat ma-maximize gyud ni siya sa mga persons with disability kay mo man ni ang dili kayo ingon common nga disability ba. For example, na kay problema sa pandungog or sa pagkuan makahikap man gihapon ka. So ato dyan siyang i-huna-hunaon. For example, ang uban nga tourist spots, magbutan ni silang braille, silang libro baron, silang space or kanang ang ila bitong ipahikap nga mga gamit sa ilang turista is naagi siya texture para ma-describe nila ba, para ma-maximize bitaw nila ang ilang experience. So kaning smell, allow natural fragrances of vegetation to be enjoyed. So much better gid if ang smell is more natural. So mas nindot jud nga mas nag-involve bitaw siya sa environmental friendly nga tourist spot or tourist site kay mas pleasing man siya sa person, ay pleasing man siya sa atoa nga kuan. So sa smell. Smell is allow natural fragrances of vegetation to be enjoyed. Mas nice yun siya if, for example, naata sa murag nature bitaw siya nga location, or mas better if ang scent sa place nga atong adtuan is more on nature para ma-maximize bitaw sa tao. Kay if for example makaato kag lugar nya nindot kay siya tan-aw, nindot kay siya kanang environment, pero bati kay siya pang amoy, so bati gyapon siya sa experience nato, how much more sa people with disability. So dapat i-think through ni nato og i-maximize ni nato. And lastly is taste. Provide opportunities to sample local produce and cuisine. So kani siya if for example ang imong client or ang tourist nga niadto sa inyong tourist spot is na siya problema sa visual, wala ta kabaw na siya problema sa visual or brain injury or sa kuan sa smell murag tingob na tanan, so unsa may lain kuan, so ipa-taste nato nila para ma-feel gyapon ba nila bitaw, like ma-describe nila ang place ba, for example savory ba, sweet ba, naman gihapon na sensation sa ilaha, kay sensory man gihapon na nila ang pag-taste. So kani siya if for example naay ang breakdown ani tanan, if naay disability ang tourist, i-maximize gyud ang sensory experience. Kaning 5 nga sensory experience: visual, sounds, touch, smell, and lastly ang taste. So ingon ana ka importante ang atong sensory experience, guys, not for only us normal people, especially for persons with PWD. So do any of you have any questions, guys? Okay, so ang breakdown ani niya tanan is we must provide accessible tourism, especially to those people with disabilities or PWD. That is the purpose, the sole purpose of accessible tourism. Thank you.